Greetings, family. So I thought I would. This is Cassandra Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates. It is Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for joining me for the service of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. So I'm just going to take a moment to prep the environment. Since this is the first temple service that we've done in a couple of months, actually, since about May. So I'm just going to set the tone. I'm going to have the music playing in the background for a little bit. I'm going to light some candles, set the environment, and then we're going to get started on today's temple subject, which is on the question of Lucifer and the magic of menstrual blood. So stay with me, enjoy the music, which, by the way, is copyright-free music. So don't nobody trying to report me. It's copyright-free music. Today, while we prepare for the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence service. So bear with me. All right. Now the stage is set. The tone is set. I'll give y'all a moment to check out the beautiful logo painted by my friend Akemi, the logo of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And for those of you on IG, that is the logo of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. Quite beautiful. All right, so we're gonna turn on the music. So it's about 12 minutes after. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So I encourage you guys, I love it. I encourage you guys to check out on YouTube. All you have to do is do a search for royalty free or copyright free music. And there's actually some pretty dope stuff there. I've been um, kind of hoarding it in one of my playlists for a couple of days now. But anyway, so let's get started. Greetings, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Carlotta, who is traveling while tuning in. Good morning, Letitia, who is tuning in, and Brother Obasi from the East Coast. Those of you tuning in on IG, thank you for joining. So we're going to get started. Hopefully by next Saturday, when I do the next temple service, we will have a location, and that is more going to be our permanent, or at least temporarily permanent location until I can buy us a building, which is my long-term ambition, is to buy us a space. But in the meantime, there are several spaces here in the Los Angeles area that actually allow for the free use of their spaces to nonprofits, 501c3. So hopefully, good morning, my Amy. So good. So hopefully by next Saturday we will have a location other than my home, though it's nice. Though my altar is, if I do say so myself, quite beautiful. You see, we're joined today by Mama Asantawa on my left, and Mama Harriet Tubman here on my right, and all the goddesses on deck. So I talked to you yesterday about what the subject matter of today's check-in, if you will, is going to be, our service is going to be. And my dreams were quite lucid last night. Yeah, my dreams were quite lucid last night. I answered a lot of questions. I appreciate that. Like, so many people tuned in afterwards and asked questions and made suggestions, book suggestions, and video suggestions. So I appreciate all the feedback. It lets me know that you're tuned in and I ain't out here talking to myself. You feel me? So I appreciate the interaction. I haven't checked my email address yet, so I don't know if anybody's reached out to me there, but I appreciate that. So I wanted to, before we got started, I was looking through this book I just bought like very, very recently. So I haven't even dug through the book deep yet, but something compelled me to like crack the spine of this book open this morning in preparation for today. And I'm going to share that with you all, kind of like, as an impromptu kind of like opening up the service, opening up the space type of thing. Okay, Letitia, I'm glad you said that because I haven't checked my email yet. Yes, after yesterday's, um, I talked for almost 2 hours yesterday. I was kind of wiped, so I chilled and ate ice cream and drank wine the rest of the day. So I will check my email after today's service, but I'll be honest. After yesterday, I was like, nope, I'm good. I went out for a tiny little walk, came back, propped up with some ice cream and wine, and watched TV the rest of the day, literally. So anyway, so I will follow up on those emails. Okay, so like I was saying, the book that I bought, I cannot suggest it yet, though I'm going to show it to you. It spoke to me when I went to the little shop. I had no intention of buying a book, but the title was dope. The cover was extraordinary. The color was beautiful, and and so I picked it up. And then today, when I cracked open the spine to see if there was anything that could be useful for the service today, the first thing I opened up to, I was like, check, please. And so I'm going to share it with you. But the book is called The African Goddess Initiation by Abiola Abrams. The African Goddess Initiation. Screenshot it if you're watching. I got this at a local little, witchy shop here in town. But again, the cover spoke to me. The title spoke to me. Obviously, the color spoke to me. So I'm just going to open with what is entitled Blessing of the Threshold Guardians. Love this. This is the first page I opened up to this morning. Dark Awakens. Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up. Anybody? Yes? Okay, good. Dawn awakens. You are at the threshold. This is the bridge, the door, the passage, the gateway, the path to the rest of your path. It has taken you a lifetime of experiences to get here. May your joy know no limits. May you be loved wholly. May your calabash overflow with riches. May pleasure and creativity pursue you. May you be brazenly fearless. May your mind and heart be open. May you be you. This is the goddess blessing of the threshold. Baby? Yes. 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 What a way to start the Saturday. All right. Okay, so we're going to get started because we have a lot of ground to cover today. For those of you who did not catch the live yesterday and are wondering what the topic of the temple service today is going to be, we are going to be covering two subject matters from the great, magnanimous, wonderful works of Barbara Walker called The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. And today we are going to be covering two subjects. We're going to be covering the mysteries of menstrual blood. That's a long one. It might be it for today. Let me see how long Lucifer is. We're going to start with Lucifer. All right. Thank you so much. Those joining in on IG, thank you so much for the compliment. Okay, so we're going to start with the reading. Again, I want to re-mention, I am going to read this straight through. I'm going to attempt to read it straight through. I know I'll be digressing a lot. I'm going to attempt to read this straight through. And then, thank you so much. Liminal RR. I felt so called to be on the live post. I appreciate that. So I'm glad you were called. I'm glad you're here joining us. So what I'm going to do is do a straight read through of Lucifer according to the Women's Encyclopedia of Secrets and Myths. Then you can make your comments, you can ask your questions, and so on. Once I get done with that read, I will read through the questions and the comments before we transition to the discussion around menstrual blood. Be mindful that the service that we do as the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence is 2 hours. It's from 11 to 1. So when I do regular lives, I try to keep it at an hour, like through the week. But today, our service is going to be from 11 to 1. So get yourself some water or whatever your libation of choice is, and let's go ahead and get started. I will make a couple of announcements. I had a couple of people asking me about what I was drinking out of yesterday. So I'm going to, because I found this company during pandemic, and I don't remember the name, but I have a girlfriend that remembers the name. But it's really cool. This is glass, and it's a water company locally here in Los Angeles, where if you sign up for their services, they're a water delivery service. If you sign up for their water delivery service, they gift you this cute little mini-sized water carrier with an actual little pouch. It comes with a cute little hemp pouch that you can strap over your shoulder for when you go hiking. It perfectly sits in. But the water delivery actually comes in a glass vessel with the same sacred geometry on the bottle, so you can put it in your water dispenser. So isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, let's see. Live Water. That might be the name of the company. Live Water. That's what's on the bottom of the thing. Live Water. There were a couple of people that asked about it, so I thought I would sit that out so I could share it with you. Try Live Water. If not, I'm still gonna ask my homegirl about that. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, for those of you tuning in late, my name is Cassandra Floyd. I'm also known as the Daughter of the Fates. I'm the founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. We're going to get started today with a short read on Lucifer. Quote, Lightbringer, Latin title of the morning star god who announced the daily birth of the sun. Canaanites called him Shaher. The Jewish Shaharit morning service still commemorates him. Shaher's twin brother, Shalem, the evening star, announced the daily death of the sun and spoke to him the word of peace, Hebrew, shalom, Arabic, salam. Shalem was worshipped along with his brother in Jerusalem, which means house of Shalem. Jerusalem means house of Shalem. Shaher and Shalem were the same as the Greeks' Dioscuri, or heavenly twins, Castor and Pollux, born of Leda's world egg. They were, and so Castor and Pollux, I don't know if everybody is familiar, but that is actually a constellation, Castor and Pollux, born of Leda's world egg. They were also prominent in Persian sun worship as the two torchbearers, one with his torch ascendant and the other with his torch directed down. Both Shaher and Shalem were born of the great mother Asherah in her world womb aspect as Hallel, Hellel, Hellel, the pit. The more we talked about yesterday, right? Canaanite myth said Shaher coveted the supreme glory of the sun god and tried to usurp his throne, but was defeated and cast down from heaven like a lightning bolt. Pagan scriptures of the 7th century BC included a dirge from the fallen morning star. Quote, Listen to this, y'all. Please listen. Because I ain't reading to y'all for my health, I promise. How hast thou fallen from heaven, Hallel's son Shahir? Thou didst say in thine heart, I will ascend to heaven. Above the circumpolar stars, I will raise my throne, and I will dwell on the mount of counsel and the back of the north. I will mount on the back of a cloud. I will be like unto Elyon. End quote. Centuries later, a Jewish scribe copied the Canaanite scripture into the Bible and pretended that it was written by Isaiah. Quote, this is Isaiah's forgery. Isaiah's, what you call it? What do you call it when you copy somebody else's shit? Not forgery. Oh my God. What is it? What is the word? What is wrong with my brain? Plagiarism. This is Isaiah's plagiary. Quote, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend to heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Okay, end quote. Thank you. End quote. Okay. Oh boy. All right. He said, I'm going to be like the Most High. Son of the morning. I am going to be like the Most High. The biblical writer further told Lucifer, quote, thou shalt be brought down to hell to the sides of the pit. That is according to Isaiah 14:15. The pit was the same as Hallel or Ashreah, the God's own mother bride, and his descent as a lightning serpent into her pit represented fertilization of the abyss by masculine fire from heaven. Oh. I haven't read this, by the way. This one, Lucifer, I haven't read, so I'm reading it with y'all, okay? Oh, listen, it's so. Every time I've ever read through this book, it's always so on time. No matter what I choose, no matter whatever I fall onto cover, it is always on time. So yesterday, what did we read yesterday? What was it that we went into yesterday on here? Man, what did we go into yesterday, y'all? My mind. What was it? It wasn't matriarchy. It wasn't the ram. I do not even recall, just that quick. Whatever it was we read yesterday, and it totally escapes me. Look at that. Wow. Totally escapes me. But anyway, oh, here it is, prostitution. Okay, yeah, prostitution was what we read yesterday. And so here we read about prostitution yesterday, and they go hard on the idea of the pit, of the cave, of the hole, of the well, of the pool, of the water. And the next day, some shit I ain't never read. Is right in alignment with what we went into yesterday for 2 hours. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read that little section again. The biblical writer further told Lucifer, thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. The pit was the same as Hallel, their mother. The two stars' mother was Hallel, and Ashreah, the God's own mother bride, and his descent as a lightning serpent into her pit represented fertilization of the abyss by masculine fire from heaven. In short, the light bringer challenged the supreme solar god by seeking favors of the mother. This divine rivalry explains the so-called sin of Lucifer, hubris, which church fathers translated to pride, but its real meaning was sexual passion. Actually, all sacred kings aspired to the same proud position Lucifer or Shahir coveted, to be the spouse of the goddess. Oh my God. Oh, oh, damn. To be the spouse of the goddess, to stand at the hub of the heavens, carried thence on a cloud, to become one with the supreme deity. Egyptian pharaohs made almost identical claims to glory, as shown by Pepi's tomb inscription stating that he, quote, standeth upon the north of heaven with Ra. He becometh Lord of the universe, like unto the king of the gods, end quote. Oh, he also descended into the earth in the guise of the immortal serpent Sada, father of lightning, and his Hebrew name, Satan, merged with the image of Lucifer in Jesus' words, quote, I beheld Satan as a lightning fall from heaven, end quote. Child, I hope y'all taking notes today. Ooh, I hope y'all taking notes today. Lucifer committed to be linked with both lust and lightning during the Christian era. He became the prince of the power of the air, according to Ephesians 2:2, who threw his lightning bolts at church towers. Who threw his lightning bolts at church towers. He wielded the Triton, in Eastern symbolism, a triple lightning phallus destined to fertilize the triple goddess. Another ancient source of the Lucifer legend was the Assyrio-Babylonian lightning god Zu, Z-U, the storm bird, a forerunner of Zeus. Sometimes he was Seraph, a fiery flying serpent, the lightning bolt personified. Zu was punished for coveting the power filled. Zu was punished for coveting the power-filled tablets of the power-filled tablets of destiny that great mother Tiamat had given her firstborn son, the father of the gods. Zeus said himself, quote, I will take the tablet of destiny of the gods, even I, and I will direct all the oracles of the god. I will establish a throne and dispense commands. I will rule over all the spirits of heaven, end quote. Egypt called the morning star god Bennu, the dying and reborn phoenix bird known as the soul of Ra, who died on the world tree in order to renew himself, to shine on the world. This spirit dwelt in the phallic obelisk called Bennu, or the Benben stone, which stood for God's sexual union with the mother. Another of his phallic forms was the mighty serpent Ami-Hemph, dweller in his flame, who lived on the mountain of sunrise and was identified with the morning star. Thus, Egypt and Mesopotamia had several versions of light-bringing Lucifer long before scraps of his myth found their way into the Judeo-Christian writings. Plato knew the morning star god as Aster, or star, S-T-A-R, and also understood that the same star appeared at evening in a different position and so became the evening star, actually the planet Venus. Plato therefore viewed Aster as the dying and reborn deity himself. Aster once as morning star, light on the living you shed. Now dying as evening star, you shine among the dead, end quote. Gnostic Christians maintained that the light that Lucifer brought was true enlightenment, which he gave humanity against God's will, as Prometheus stole the fire of heaven to bring civilization to mankind against the will of Zeus. The Bible story supported the Gnostic view. God denied Adam and Eve the fruit of the tree of knowledge, desiring to keep them ignorant. But Lucifer, in the form of a serpent, gave them the light of wisdom. The Persians too said their own great serpent, Ahriman, gave knowledge to the first couple in the Garden of Eden. Ahriman, too, was the twin brother of the solar god, cast out of heaven for his hubris. But the Magi worshipped the great serpent as the source of their occult wisdom. He was often thought more influential in terrestrial affairs than the father who cast him down. Such Persian precedents influenced Gnostic Christians who regarded Jehovah as the villain. Oh, y'all ain't heard. Such Persian precedents influenced Gnostic Christians who regarded Jehovah as the villain and Lucifer as the hero, as the savior, as the friend of man. Oh my God. These were the early Christians, y'all, who regarded Jehovah as the villain and Lucifer as the hero, savior, and friend of man, revealer of the sacred mysteries that the Heavenly Father jealously withheld. Medieval secret fraternities perpetuated the Gnostic respects for Lucifer and sometimes identified him with Hermes, the god of revelation, who in does anybody know who Hermes is in Ifa tradition? We've talked about this. Anybody who's watched any of my videos on America's First Pluto Returns, I've talked about this often. Who is Hermes? Now, okay, so for those of you who don't know, Hermes in Greek mythology is the little dude running around heaven, running back and forth between earth and heaven with the little wings on his shoes. He's the great messenger of Olympia. Anybody remember that? I done gave you the answer. So who is Hermes in Ifa tradition? Oh shit, I thought I turned that down. Sorry about that. Let me silence my phone. Who is Hermes? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. Eshu, Elegba is Hermes in Ifa tradition. The Gnostic doctrines persisted through the first half of the Christian era and well into the second half. Meister Eckhart said, quote, Lucifer, the angel who is in hell, had perfectly pure intellect and to this day knows much. Amaya, hey, long time no see. Okay. In the 14th century AD, there were Gnostic groups called Luciferians who, quote, worship Lucifer and believe him to be the brother of God, wrongly cast out of heaven. Luciferians were first heard of in Austria. Their cult soon spread to Brandenburg, Bohemia, Switzerland, and Savoy. In 1336, the Inquisition burned 14 men and women at Magdeburg for holding heretical opinions about Lucifer. In 1384, a priest at Prenzlau accused his entire congregation of believing that Lucifer was God or the brother of God. One of the great questions among medieval schoolmen was how many angels fell with Lucifer and how many remained in heaven under the command of Michael. Some authorities said most angels fell. Some said most remained. Some said a tenth, a ninth, or a third of the angelic host fell because the dragon with his tail plucked down with him a third of the stars, a third part of the stars, end quote. Furious debate raged also between Thomists, Scotists, and followers of Augustine on the Great Question. The Great Question is in quotations. The Great Question of the battle's location and duration. It was said to have taken place in the air, in the firmament, or in paradise. It lasted one instant, two instances, four instances. The consensus of learned opinion was that that it lasted three instances. Thus, the theologians suppose that it didn't take long for God to subdue Lucifer. On the question of why Lucifer's army rebelled against the supremely beneficent, supremely lovable God in the first place, the theologians were silent, perhaps knowing all too well deep within their minds what Lucifer really stood for. So, are there any questions, any feedback, any observations? That's the end of the section on Lucifer, which was quite interesting. I feel like I should discuss the devil instead of menstrual blood next. What say your opinion, menstrual blood or the devil as a follow-up on Lucifer? Yeah. I'll tell y'all a funny little story while we decide. What say you next, menstrual blood or a follow-up on Lucifer with a reading of the devil? So the funny little, I say ironic story is that most of you know that up until a year ago this month, actually. Yeah, I think so too. So in this discussion about Lucifer, the devil, whatever, so up until a year ago, my name was Iapo, and I had been Iapo Moyende Ngina for 20 years, a little more than 20 years, right? I took an African name when I joined Revolutionary Organization, and I've been called by everyone except bill collectors. I had been called Iapo. The funny thing is, I would say easily 50 to 75% of the time, when whenever I would introduce people, whenever I would introduce myself to people, I would say, hey, my name is Iapo. And in their ear, for whatever reason, and it was both black and white people and others, I would say, my name is Iapo, and people would repeat back, Diablo? Often, 50 to 75% of the time. Diablo? That's your name, Diablo? No, Iapo. Diablo? I'm just saying. I find it ironic and interesting. Okay, so I do have like some comments and maybe some questions. Nope, just some comments. Okay, besides the little hey, how are you? Hello, how you doing? Okay, cool. We're gonna move forward with the devil since it seems to be fitting. Carlotta says Jesus is also called bright and morning star in the Revelation, like Lucifer. I have this sneaking suspicion that one of these days we're actually going to comb through the Revelation of the Bible and dissect it and decode it. Okay, but in the meantime, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with the devil. Okay. So for those of you who are just tuning in, I am Cassandra Floyd. This is the temple service of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And we are reading from the great and wonderful, magnanimous, dynamic, all too important book by Barbara Walker, the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. Share. Tell people to come on in. Let's go. So this is an actual encyclopedia. You look up a word and then you find out the history and the origin of the word or the thing. Let's see. Letitia says in Zoroastrianism, the evil God and the good God were twins, and it's very much like the Jesus and the devil story. And I think that's important to mention because that's what they start off by, is acknowledging this story about the twin constellation, the twin constellation being, I think it's Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux, is that their name? Castor and Pollux. Where at? Yeah, Castor. Yes, Castor and Pollux is. But I'm gonna tell you something. So I don't remember why. The reason that so Letitia just jumped right into it. Letitia says, actually, a lot of religions have this similar story. The reason why, and I have said this to you all a million times, is that every religion on the planet Earth is based in a scientific observation of the heavenly bodies, anthropomorphized in stories, not Gemini. This is Castor and Pollux. They are a separate constellation. They are considered twin stars. But all of these stories, every single one, no matter where you go on Earth, that does not mean. So I want y'all, now I'm going to tell you about somebody that you need to check out. But if you check this person out, you have to turn off all surrounding busy noise. You have to have a pen and a piece of paper, and you better be ready to jump both feet first into a goddamn brain tormenting deep dive. What's this dude's name? Shoot, I have a whole he called what is his name? Santos Bonacci. He calls himself on YouTube Mr. Astrotheology. Santos Bonacci. I don't think there's a single video you're going to find of his that's less than 2 hours long. But baby, now the disclaimer is this. My disclaimer is always this. Take what you need from what the fuck he says and leave the rest. That is my disclaimer for anybody male. He is still a man, and he suffers from this Y chromosome affliction that causes all men to place themselves squarely in the center of every story, of every piece of information, of every scientific observation. It's their default. It's not to criminalize them. It's just to acknowledge the very reality that is the affliction of the Y chromosome in a world that props up the Y chromosome at the expense of the mother. Once the mother reigns supreme again and has reharmonized and fixed the affliction, you see, then men can too live in harmony and peace and without the sickness and the madness of ego going astray and shit. Part of that story that we just told, right? Where the God who is the son says, I want to be like the mother. Therefore, I need to be equal to the mother or above the mother. I need to what? Rise up above God. Who is God? The mother. Above God in the firmament, in the heavens. That's what her son says. See, she gave birth to the twins. He seeks to strike down and what? Fertilize his mother. That's the story. They say it no matter where you went. They say what? In Babylon, in Assyria, and all of these stories, all over the place, the story is the same. It is about the son gone astray, child. It is about the son forgetting that even as he is powerful, every ounce of power that he has possession of came from his mother, but he seeks to subdue her. Child, they just said it. There ain't a tradition on earth where this is not truth. But this is still based in an anthropomorphized, culturally specific story of the observation of our relationship as the inhabitants of earth and her relationship with the rest of heaven. Y'all walking with me? Every story on earth, every mythology on earth. That's why they sound so similar. That's why they sound so similar. That damn, you go, it don't matter. You can go into the jungles of the middle of hell nowhere, and their stories sound so familiar because we all are in heaven. Heaven is not apart from us. We, as the inhabitants on the body of the mother of called earth, who sits in heaven, who rests in heaven. Our observation on our particular spot in heaven and our relationship with the other bodies of heaven. That's all these stories are, every single one of them. Okay? So when she, so that's why I mentioned Santos Bonacci, because that's what he calls his philosophical worldview, astrotheology. He talks about much more in depth than I ever could because he spent his whole lifetime, you know, the man went solid white gray in less than 10 years. I was like, whoa. Like if you watch videos that he just posted in like 2008, 2009, 2010, he got a head full of thick ass, black ass hair. And today, just a decade later, all his shit white. That's the evidence of a very learned person who done stayed in the wormhole to deconstruct the wormhole. You understand? I ain't trying to get like all my hair turning gray up at the top too. I'm like, I ain't trying to be fully white up in my shit in just a couple of years. You feel me? But I digress. So take what you need from him, and the Y chromosome shit that be seeping up in there, leave that shit. Because he's a genius. And I give props where props is due. He's a genius. He took my study to a whole nother level. I was turned on to him about 2 years ago. He took my study to a whole nother level, right? But take what you need from it and leave the rest. That's always my, I have to forgive me, man. My disclaimer. Okay. So let me look through some of these comments. So thank everybody for tuning in. Sholak, am I pronouncing your name right? Sholak? I'm not trying to. Hold on. Okay, so we've got Sholak, we've got Liminal. Liminal said, okay, Sholak says Mother Mary is Earth. Liminal says, just found out 6 days ago, even the most ancient Indian Vedic scriptures. Yes, of course, the most ancient Indian Vedic scriptures are astrological. Yeah, they are. Astrological and astronomical, because these are sister sciences that had never been separated until as a matter of fact, I read that to you not too long ago about how up until, it wasn't even up until like the 1700s, that even in Europe, as it was separating all the sciences, if you were going to be a doctor, if you were going to be a lawyer, if you were going to be a scientist of any kind, you had to study astrology. And then oh my God, who was it? It was, where did I read that? It was I cannot remember. Was it Thomas? It wasn't Thomas Edison. It was, child's name is on the tip of my tongue. But somebody famous that we know very well, I'll have to revisit it, was the one that started challenging the scientific world to reduce the significance of astrology, and it started to be taken out of all the scientific programs. That was just a hot second ago. Okay, the story of the peacemaker, the one who brings light and order to the people. Om signifies the body of woman. Busted. Now Krishna and Shiva are questionable. Busted. Lucifer, knowledge. The Shakti, let's see, the Shakti yoginis were destroyed. Female workshop group. Okay. All right. So let's see what other feedback we get in here before I move on. Okay. All right. So we're going to go on. So where did I leave off? Okay, I hadn't even started yet. I was digressing. Okay, so y'all ready? We about to start with the devil. After this deep dive we just did into Lucifer. Though, y'all get ready. Are y'all taking notes? Y'all better be taking notes. Or marking your book or whatever it is you gonna do. Okay? Y'all better be taking notes. I'm gonna quiz y'all on this shit. The words devil and divinity have the same origin. Right out the gate. Coup d'etat. Gut punch. Gut punch. Okay? Ready? The words devil and divinity grew from the same root. The Indo-European Devi, D-E-V-I, which means goddess, or diva, D-E-V-A, which means God, which became Devi, D-A-E-V-A, which means devil in Persian. Right out the gate. Old English, devil, D-I-V-E-L-L, devil, can be traced to the Roman derivative divus, D-I-V-U-S, or divi, D-I-V-I, which means gods. Thus, it seems that from the beginning, gods and devils were often confused with one another. Divine and devilish were relative terms, as the primary sense of Hebrew words for good and evil really meant the primary sense of the Hebrew words good and evil really meant beneficial and hurtful. Gods did evil things if angered. Devils could do good things if they were pleased. One man's God was another man was his enemy's devil. Ooh, child, look. Oh shit. Oh my God, we ain't ready. One man's God was his enemy's devil. Armenians used to sacrifice one sheep to Christ at Easter time and 30 sheep to the devil. Oh, wait a minute. Did y'all hear that? What? Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Demon is we gonna talk about that later. Don't be getting off course. Demon is different, and demon is actually a reference to astrology. So we'll table that. We'll ask about that later. Okay, we'll talk about that later. We're talking about devils right now. Okay. Because demons is what I want to talk about way in depth. Okay, so don't get sidetracked. All right. It says here that at Easter time, the Armenians used to sacrifice one sheep to Christ at Easter time and 30 sheep to the devil, on the theory that the devil's influence in the here and now was greater. Child, y'all ain't heard. Such thinking was not unusual. Devils were often credited with beneficent magic. Ooh. I'm gonna be taking notes like crazy up in here. There was a devil who, quote, maketh men witty, turneth all metals into coin of dominion, turneth water into wine, and wine into water, and blood into wine, and wine into blood, and a fool into a wise man, and he leads 33 legions of demons. End quote. Another devil perfectly teaches the virtues of the stars. He transformeth men. He giveth dignities, prelacies, and confirmations. End quote. Another devil, quote, talketh of divine virtue. He giveth true answers of things present, past, and to come, and of the divinity, and of the creation. He deceiveth none, nor suffereth any to be tempted. He giveth dignities and prelacies. End quote. Even early Christians admitted that the devils worshipped in pagan. Oh, come on now. The devils worshipped in pagan temples were known to restore the sick to health. Are these devils women? Are these devils priestesses? Hmm? Are these devils the goddess? Right? It says early Christians admitted that the devils worshipped in pagan temples were known to restore the sick to health. Tertullian said, Diabolus semia Dei, the devil imitates God. But in point of chronology, there was some doubt about who was imitating whom. Y'all ain't heard. Did y'all hear what I just said? Because I heard that shit growing up as a Christian. The devil had the foresight to come in the past and replicate the miracles of the soon to come Messiah. See, he would replicate, you feel me, in these past pagan devils and shit, all the miracles of the coming Messiah to confuse people when the Messiah came. The devil had the foresight. You feel me? So these healings of the sick, these miracles done, right? These miracles done and everything, right? Can only be attributed to good when it's through the Messiah who came all late in the game, right? When all of these others did it before even the concept of the Christ, it was heathen, pagan tomfoolery, and it was not legitimate and beneficent and good until Jesus came. And the devil had the foresight to reproduce Jesus's attributes, you feel me, in the pagan world. That's what we grew up learning as Christians, right? And so they repeat that here. They said, Tertullian said, Diabolus semia Dei, the devil imitates God. But in the point of chronology, there is some doubt about who was imitating whom. Judeo-Christian tradition attributed many diabolic acts to God. He was the sender of pestilence and famine. He created a terrible hell and its demons, who tortured human souls on his order, God. He caused violent storms, which were and still are called acts of God. From the 15th century on, basically solidifying what I just said, that when God does terrible, dirty, filthy, fucked up ass shit, it's okay because overall God is benevolent and he created everything anyway, so he can do what he wants to do, and he only does terrible shit to bad people anyway. He only does it to people who deserved it, right? So when he does terrible, bad, horrible, fucked up, malevolent, evil shit, it's not evil because it's God. Anyway, from the 15th century on, the church sold waxen cakes, the Agnus Dei, stamped with a cross and advertised as such pure protection against storms and other, quote, acts of God. Thus, God was incongruently invoked to combat himself. Child, you can't make this shit up. Oh my God. Mm-mm-mm. Child, we have a global spell to break. Motherfuckers, that's what we got. We got a global spell to break. God even killed him. I'm gonna go back. I'm reading the whole paragraph again. Judeo-Christian tradition attributed many diabolic acts to God. He was the sender of pestilence and famine. He created a terrible hell and its demons who tortured human souls on his orders. He caused violent storms, which were and still are called acts of God. From the 15th century on, the church sold waxen cakes, the Agnus Dei, stamped with a cross and advertised as sure protection against storms and other acts of God. Thus, God was incongruently invoked to combat himself. God even killed himself in the person of Christ, according to the theological dogma that they were one and the same. On the other hand, some claimed Christ was killed by devilish Jews, though Jews were carrying out God's ordained scheme of salvation and doing God's will by executing Jesus. Nevertheless, theology exonerated God and blamed them. Though the Old Testament God did much evil, even destroying many thousands of his own helpless worshipers for trivial offenses, such as in 1 Samuel 6:19. Yet churchmen seldom dare to accept the Bible's own presentation of God as the maker of evil, as the creator of evil. Right? Quote, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Isaiah 45:7. On the basis of this scripture, some advanced theory that God had deliberately created the devil before the beginning of the world because a pre-existing evil principle was necessary to test the faith of the future human race, yet somehow to make a devil was not evil if God did it. Oh, come on. Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. Okay? Yes. Everybody coming on in. Come on. The Persians believed God and the devil were twin brothers, born simultaneously from the womb of the dualistic mother of infinite time, Zervan. The devil, Ahriman, was cast down from heaven to the underworld only because his sacrifice, like Cain's, was not acceptable to the older deity. The heavenly god, Aru Mazda, continued to reign in the heights because he knew how to make the right sacrifices. Sound familiar? But the devil, not the God, was the true creator of the earth and all the creatures in the mundane world of matter. Thus, the Magi prayed to him for assistance in all worldly endeavors and revered him as the source of their magic powers. Ahriman was worshipped in Roman times throughout Northern Europe, identified with all Chthonian, I can't even pronounce that, Chthonian gods like Pluto, Saturn, and Despota. In early Christian mystery plays, he appeared as a wonder-working spirit, one Saint Mohan, or Mahan. I want to say, is any of this sounding familiar to you guys? Any of the names, anything sounding familiar to you guys? Because I tell y'all all the time when I'm doing these movie reviews, when I'm doing these movie breakdowns and stuff, how it is not until you start to study astrology, like ancient astrology. It is not until you start to study mythology, like ancient mythology, that you start to see movies differently. Does the name Ahriman mean anything to you guys? Ahriman? Anybody? Anybody? The name Ahriman, does it speak to any of you guys? Does it sound familiar? Anybody remember the Lord of the Rings? Does anybody remember the Lord of the Rings? Anybody? Did nobody watch The Lord of the Rings? Nobody watched The Lord of the Rings. Oh my goodness. What in the hell is going on in the universe? What's wrong with you people? Oh my God, me and a clan of revolutionary Africans went to the movies to see every single movie as soon as it came out. Okay? Anyway, Ahriman, so you have in this movie, The Lord of the Rings, which is deep and totally astrological, by the way. You have in this movie, because the Lord of the Rings is the god Saturn. There you go. But you have these twins that we're talking about today. I just got chills. You have these twins that we're talking about today. I forget the good guy's name. What's his name? The old guy that travels with the hobbits. Oh, what's his name? Somebody tell me his name. Ooh, anyway. You have the good guy who's got Gandalf the White and Gandalf the Gray, right? Remember, he's Gandalf the Gray, and then he becomes Gandalf the White after he dies, whatever, right? He's got the long hair. He looks like a stereotypical wizard, right? He's got his staff. He's got his long flowing hair and shit. You feel me? Ahriman is his evil twin. Exactly his characteristics, exactly the same power, exactly the same everything, but he's the dark one. Ahriman is the bad guy. But they are twins. They look exactly the same. I'm not talking about twins like actual physical, but in terms of their presentation and in terms of their character and in terms of their traits. Gandalf and Ahriman are Castor and Pollux. They are God and the devil. They are this mythology based on astrology that is replete throughout every goddamn story, mythological story in history. Now rewatch Lord of the Rings, knowing that the Lord of the Rings is the god Saturn, who devours his children. This is all astrology. Everything you watch. What's the movie? The Disney movie that just came. The Marvel movie that just came out. The Eternals. It's this story. It's this story. Who are they fighting? Who is the diabolical bad guy that the Eternals are seeking to destroy? Are seeking to betray their allegiance to destroy. Y'all remember? Do y'all remember? Who did anybody see the Eternals? Oh, Ma Amy, you getting all off task. But the movie is the jam. Ma Amy said, I just saw Nocebo. Game-changing movie. Didn't I tell you it was a game-changing movie? It's the jam. That's not relevant to what we're talking about right now. Listen, y'all. Did y'all see The Eternals? The Marvel movie, The Eternals. Did you see it? Yes, no, maybe so. Anybody? It's relatively recent. Selma Hayek's in it. There's a bunch of big-name actors in it. Anybody? I'll have to teach the goddamn pop culture class because y'all sleeping on me, man. I got to teach a pop culture class. The Eternals. Now I got to go watch it, but I'm going to give it away anyway. Here these Eternals are saddled with the responsibility to come and protect humans on Earth, not knowing, and these are Eternals. These are gods as far as the humans are concerned. That's what so Ahriman, we are just reading about here, Letitia. We are just reading about here. Yellow Rose, that's one of my favorite paintings. It was why I became obsessed with Francisco Goya. I love that piece. And that was because as a child, I was obsessed with Greek mythology. However, Letitia, Ahriman, we just reading about here. I kept saying, and Ahriman is the devil, according to this, right? And that's why I mentioned the movie Lord of the Rings, because Ahriman is the bad guy. Ahriman is the devil who raises these devils. He creates this whole race of beings that's going to take over the earth, right? He is going to what? Destroy the world of men is what he's going to do, right? And I can go deep on it. I ain't gonna, but I could. But the Lord of the Rings is literally the god Saturn. right? And I could go on and on. Token said it was a download and based on capitalism and racism. What you're talking about, Mon Amy, woman, it is not. First of all, since you've got to digress, Mon Amy, that movie Nocebo is based on a true story. Let me say this: it is a fictitious act. It is a fictitious adaptation of true events. It is a fictitious adaptation of true events. So the whole thing about all those people getting killed in that cheap textile plant in Thailand, or I think it was Thailand is where they were from. Though that was based on actual events, the same number of people died, so on and so forth, and nothing ever happened. Nobody ever went to prison. Nobody ever got fined. Nothing. I read a whole deep ass breakdown about what happened, because this happened in the early part of the last decade, like 2014, I think. But yeah. So anyway, Nocebo was fire, right? And I saw the Outer Limits episode, Lithia. Yeah, it's my jam. I've only seen it a million times. So anyway, all right. So let's move on. There was a reason I went into that, because y'all need to see Lord of the Rings, even if you just like skip through. But it's this. It's astrology. That's all it is. It's historical mythology retold. Okay, so the Persians believed that God and the devil were twin brothers born simultaneously from the womb of the dualistic mother of infinite time. Zervan, the devil, Ahriman, was cast down from heaven to the underworld only because his sacrifice, like Cain's, was not acceptable to the older deity. The heavenly god, Aramazda, continued to reign in the heights because he knew how to make the right sacrifices. But the devil, not the god, was the true creator of the earth and all the creatures in the mundane world of matter. Thus, the Magi prayed to him for assistance in all worldly endeavors and revered him as the source of their magical powers. Ahriman was worshipped in Roman times throughout Northern Europe, identified with all the Thontian gods like Pluto, Saturn, and Despota. In early Christian mystery plays, he appeared as a wonder-working spirit, one Saint Mahan. The Christian devil became a composite of ancient deities in a single protean form. He had the goat horns and the hooves of the satyr gods like Pan, Marsyas, and Dionysus, the trident of Neptune, Hades, or Shiva, the reptilian form of Leviathan, Python, or Ouroboros, the fiery form of Agni or Helios, the female breasts of Astarte, Ishtar, the wolf face of Dis, Pheronius, or Fenrir, the quadruple wings of the Babylonian cherubim, the bird claws and ancestral spirits of the Aves, and all the god names Christians had ever heard, including many secret names of their own god: Jupiter, Mercury, Minerva, Venus, Hades, Pluto, Beelzebub, Lucifer, Zeus, Thonius, Zabasius, Belial, Adonis, Sabbath, Iowa, Soter, Emmanuel, Samuel. The devil could take any shape, even a human one. Pope Gregory what's the Roman? Is it the 11th? What's the Roman numeral? There's the I and the X. The I before the X. What's that Roman numeral? Whatever his number is. Pope Gregory. Is that? No. Is it the 9th? It's not the 9th. That's 10th. Child, I don't remember. Tell me what that Roman numeral is. Anyway, described him as a pale, black-eyed youth with a melancholy aspect. At other times, he was an animal composite, as on the amulet of base. Quote, naked genius with a head of bays, flanked by 7 heads of animals, among whom are bull, lion, and ibis, and surmounted by a teph crowned with several horns, 4 wings, falcon tail, and crocodile tail, 4 arms, 2 arms stretched out along the wings, hold lances and serpents, while the third on the left seizes a lion, the fourth on the right holds a scepter and whip. The erect penis ends in a lion's head. There are lion masks on the knees, and the feet are given the form of jackal heads with pointed ears and prolonged as coiled snakes. Best stands on an Ouroboros, a cosmic serpent, which contains various animals, the scorpion, the crocodile, and the tortoise. End quote. Thank you. Okay, it is 9. All right, I was correct. So that dude, Pope Gregory the Ninth, described what I just read to you. The devil's popular nickname, Old Scratch, came from a Germanic wood spirit called a scrat or a wad scrat, sometimes a protector of households known as a scratlin or a little scrat. The spirit inhabited a phallic a phallic amulet based on the bisexual lingam yoni, as suggested by Anglo-Saxon scritta, Old English scrat, which was a hermaphrodite. Another nickname of the devil, Deuce, came from the Gaulish gods named Duci, a variation of Deus, Deus, which is Deus, meaning God. Again, there was a hermaphroditic connotation since Deus also means two. Some demonologists postulated 7 devils, one for each of the 7 deadly sins. Lucifer was the devil for pride. Mammon was the devil for avarice. Asmodeus for lechery. Satan for anger. Beelzebub for gluttony. Leviathan for envy. Belphegor for sloth. And Belphegor for sloth. Belial, a slightly less prestigious spirit, governed such vessels of iniquity as playing cards and dice. Devils and the devil were interchangeable. The devil was one and also many, a monotheistic transformation of the polytheistic concept. Christian nations asserted that all other nations worshiped devils or the devil under many names. A 16th century list of devil-worshipping countries included Tartary, China, Lapland, Finland, the North Islands, the East Indies, Persia, Arabia, Anatolia, Egypt, Ethiopia, Turkey, Russia, and Norway. Ain't that about a bitch? According to the 18th century German theologian Johann Beaumont, any person anywhere in the world who confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh belongs to the devils. As God incarnated himself in earthly flesh, so the devil was supposed to incarnate himself in earthly flesh shortly before the coming of doomsday. This demonic being was usually called the Antichrist. He would be known by his Christ-like ability to perform heal. Oh my God. He would be known by his Christ-like ability to perform healing miracles, such as restoring the sight of the blind. But what did we say yesterday about the holy horse? What did we say about the holy horse yesterday, y'all? And let me not get there. It was never explained how these demonic miracles were to be distinguished from holy ones. The coming of Antichrist was constantly announced dozens of times in each century. Canon Moreau and the contemporary churchmen reported that Antichrist was born in 1599 at Babylon. where the Jews acclaimed him as their Messiah. Apparently, he was identified with his messianic Elijah, for whom the Jews looked each year at Passover. If there were any devilish attributes on which most myths agreed, they were the rather godlike qualities of one, superhuman intelligence. Yo, ooh, child, listen. If there were any devil, I want y'all to hear me on this day at this time, child. Look, if there were any devilish attributes on which most myths agreed, they were rather godlike qualities of one, superhuman intelligence, and two, superhuman sexuality. Inquisitor John Bowden wrote, quote, "It is certain that the devils have found a profound knowledge of all things." Oh my God. They have it is certain that the devils have a profound knowledge of all things. Oh my God. No theologian can interpret the Holy Scriptures better than they can. No lawyer has more detailed knowledge of the testaments, contracts, and actions. No physician, no philosopher can better understand the composition of the human body and the virtues of the heavens, the stars, and the birds, and the fishes, and the trees, and the herbs, and the metals, and the stones, baby. Oh, y'all ain't responding like a congregation of motherfuckers who just got kicked in the chest by a knowledge mule. Oh, ooh, child, listen. These motherfuckers were scared even way back then of their coming loss of power. The Inquisitor John Bowden wrote, quote, "It is certain that the devils have a profound knowledge of all things. No theologian can interpret the Holy Scriptures better than they. No lawyer has more detailed knowledge of testaments, contracts, and actions. No physician or philosopher can better understand the composition of the human body and the virtues of the heavens, the stars, the birds and the fishes, the trees and the herbs and metals and stones." Baby. Woo! Child, that's a word. That's the word for the day. We can stop right there. Oh my God. Inquisitor Nicholas Remy said the devil had complete knowledge of everything human beings could not explain. Quote, "Everything which is unknown lies in the cursed domain of demonology. For there are no unexplained facts. Whatever is not normal is due to the devil." Oh my God. Y'all ain't rocking with me. Y'all ain't. I'm in here. Listen, I am in here dismayed. I'm in this bitch dismayed. Oh my God. No Christian was permitted to disbelieve. It was heresy to disbelieve in the devil. No Christian is permitted to disbelieve in the devil. His credibility rested on the same foundation as that of God. Indeed, the very concept of salvation depended on the devil. If there had been no tempter, there was no original sin. Oh, no fall, no hell, no need of a redeemer or a church. Well, My Navy says she catching her breath. She need a minute. Oh my God. Listen. Listen. Here is the crux of it all, child. Here is the crux of it all. No Christian was permitted to disbelieve in the devil. His credibility rested on the same foundation as that of God. Indeed, the very concept of salvation depends on the devil. If there had been no tempter, then there was no original sin, no fall, no hell, no need of a redeemer or a church. De Givry correctly said, quote, if the satanic concept is tampered with, the whole edifice laboriously erected by the fathers of the church crumbles to the goddamn ground, baby. Let the church say a motherfucking man. Shall look. Shall. The devil was essential to the dualistic theology that Christianity copied from Persia. If the world was divided between the forces of good and evil, an evil deity was necessary. Otherwise, evil would have to be blamed on God. Logically, a God couldn't be both all good and all powerful. If God could make a world without evil and would not, he couldn't be all good. If God wanted to make a world without evil and could not, he can't be all powerful. The only solution, not a good one, but the only possible one, was to supply God with an evenly matched adversary to be responsible for evil. Thus, theologians thought it the worst heresy, contrary to true faith, to suggest that the devils existed only in the ignorant imagination. The devil was so real to Martin Luther that he accosted him one evening and threw an ink pot at him. It was a severe theological problem to account for God's apparent helplessness to halt the devil's activity. Though Lucifer, or Satan, was supposed to have been utterly defeated and immobilized during the famous war in heaven, yet he was so lively that the war seemed to have caused him nothing more than a momentary inconvenience. Okay. Yo, listen, y'all ain't hearing. This girl is going off right now. Oh my God. Theologians could only propose that God, quote, permitted the devil's freedom of action. They said, quote, it is not the witch's ointment nor her incantation that makes her forked stick fly across the air, but the power of the devil allowed by God, end quote. They never explained why the church punished what God allowed. Much semantic hair splitting went into defining relationships between the devil, God, and humanity, such as the distinction between sorcery and witchcraft. Sorcery was invoking spirits to carry out those powers which God permitted the devil. That's a quote. In practice, a man who asked the devil to help him seduce a woman was not guilty of any crime. Because sex under the devil's jurisdiction by God's order. Devils who killed children did nothing sinful, for God permitted them to kill children in order to punish their parents. On the other hand, a woman who tried to save her dying child with witch herbs was mortally guilty and deserved the death penalty. Y'all ain't hearing. I ain't got no raise the roofs. I ain't got no praise them hands. I ain't got no claps. I ain't got no facial expression. Y'all ain't here. Y'all ain't here. Y'all ain't heard. A man who asked the devil to help him seduce a woman was not guilty of any crime because sex was under the devil's jurisdiction by God's order. Devils who killed children did nothing sinful, for God permitted them to kill children in order to punish their parents. But on the other hand, a woman who tried to save her dying child with witchy herbs was mortally guilty and deserved the death penalty. Baby, theologians argued that all works of witches were brought about by the devil with God's permission. Even a witch who did only good works, like healing the sick, must suffer the same death as a witch whose acts were harmful. Thus, witches were placed in a no-win situation. Once a man beat a witch for casting a spell on his son and forced her to remove the spell. Pope Benedict the whatever X1V. What is that? Is that the 16th? Pope. Fuck. Is that the 6th? That's the 4th. That's the 14th. Pope Benedict the 14th ruled. Pope Benedict the 14th ruled that the witch committed a double sin by using the devil's power twice, even though she did it under coercion the second time. Even though she did it under coercion the second time. Because the man made her, right? Benedict carefully stipulated that the man who beat her was entirely innocent of any wrongdoing. The church created the idea that witches were the devil's helpers involved in a vast plot to undermine Christian society. This theory was the real root of the witch mania. The people were generally indifferent to the priests' witch hunting until this theory was forced on them by propaganda from the pulpit, which deliberately played on their fear of the devil after stimulating it in the first place. It sometimes happened that churchmen themselves consulted with the devil without paying the same penalties they inflicted on lay persons. Some miracle-working heretics were convicted by the bishop of Besançon in 1170 on the evidence of none other than Satan, interviewed by the bishop with the help of a priest skilled in necromancy. Satan assured the bishop that the accused were indeed his servants, so they were sent to the stake. The devil was useful to the clergyman or anyone else seeking an excuse for lecherous behavior. According to one story, quote, the devil transformed himself into the appearance of Saint Sylvanus, Bishop of Nazareth, a friend of Saint Jerome. And this devil approached a noblewoman by night in her bed and began first to provoke and entice her with lewd words, and then invited her to perform the sinful act. And when she called out, the devil, in the form of the saintly bishop, hid under the woman's bed, and being sought for and found there, he, in licorice language, declared lyingly that he was Bishop Sylvanus. On the morrow, therefore, when the devil had disappeared, the holy man was scandalously defamed. Some sly fellows used the devil to defraud. There was a Cornish man who convinced his neighbors that he had sold his soul to the devil. Taking a few coins to the tavern each night, he pretended to receive money from the devil to pay for his drink. He would thrust his hat up the chimney, calling on his diabolic friend, and the coins appeared in his hat. The superstitious innkeeper wouldn't touch the devil's money, so the Cornishman drank all evening for free. The devilish pact was not a joke, however. It was an essential ingredient of the devil mythology that killed millions during 6 centuries of witch hunting. Yet, it was logically absurd. If the devil received the soul of every sinner, as the church taught, he had no need to secure it with a pact. It would be his anyway. As for the sinners themselves, they seem to derive little benefit from their side of the contract. A Scott pointed out, any woman in her right mind would reject the devil's bargain, saying, quote, why should I hearken to you when you will deceive me? Did you not promise my neighbor, Mother Dutton, to save and rescue her, and yet, lo, she is hanged? End quote. Early in the Christian era, there were no very severe punishments for making a pact with the devil. The Golden Legend tells of a young man who signed over his soul to the devil to win the love of a certain lady. Later, Saint Basil prayed over the young man and retrieved his contract, a piece of paper which dropped from an upper balcony of the church, fluttered down through the air and fell into his hands. In the sight of all, the paper was torn up and the youth was free. Several popes were said to have made a diabolic pact, including one who may have ideological roots in the genuine pagan tradition, Sylvester II. His real name was Gerbert de Aurillac. He grew up in a France still permeated by Dianic and Druidic fairy religion, where Aphrodite was worshipped at Rouen up to the 12th century, and the moon goddess's groves attracted pilgrims up to the 14th century. Sylvester chose a papal name meaning spirit of the grove, and it was said he had a fairy mistress named Mary Diana, who taught him the secrets of magic. According to the Cardinal Benno and William of Malmesbury, Sylvester signed a pact with the devil to achieve the papal throne, and the devil gave it to him. The truth about Pope Sylvester was that he had unusually intellectual taste for his time. He remarked that the frustrations and difficulties of his life, philosophy was the only cure. In his time, philosophy didn't mean Christian theology. It meant pagan literature, natural science, and hermetism. Quote, the list of great men in those centuries charged with magic is astonishing. It includes every man of real mark, and in the midst of them stands one of the most thoughtful popes, Sylvester II, Gerbert, and the foremost medieval thinkers on natural science, Albert the Great. It came to be this accepted idea that as soon as a man conceived a wish to study the works of God, his first step must be to child. Listen, it came to be an accepted idea that as soon as a man conceived a wish to study the works of God, his first step must be a league with the devil. Another devilish philosopher was Henrich Cornelius Agrippa von Nettesheim, historiographer to Emperor Charles V, author of the famous treatise on Hermetism, De Occulta Philosophia, his works, and severely reprimanded him for trying to defend accused witches. But his wealthy patrons protected him from arrest. Only once was he imprisoned for debt, not heresy. He called magic the perfect science. He called magic the perfect science. I don't know what happened. He claimed that the Gnostic heretics did that knowledge come to man not as a gift from God, but as a gift from the devil. Agrippa's life story contributed to the legend of Faust, around which centered many thrilling tales of devil's pacts. The real Faust was not impressive. An obscure school master in Krochnach, he was dismissed from his post in 1507 on the charge of sodomy. 6 years later, he reappeared as an astrologer and soothsayer, calling himself the demigod of Heidelberg. Later, citizens of Munster knew him as the famous necromancer Dr. Faustus. Ultimately, his fame rested not on any of his doings, but on the so-called Faustian books, Hollandswanger, which translates to the Harrowings of Hell, which he didn't write. These anonymous works grew into a large body of literature professing to tell the reader how to make a pact with the devil, work magic, find buried treasure, win love and fortune, and finally renounce the pact in time to save one's very soul. Oh my God. Predictably, such books were enormously popular. Two books really written by Agrippa von Nettesheim to win the favor of Margaret of Austria, the superiority of women and the nobility of the female sex. Oh shit. He was trying to win his boo. You feel me? Like, fuck what you heard. Fuck what you heard. I'm trying to win my boo. It says two books that were actually written by Agrippa von Nettesheim to win the favor of Margaret of Austria, the superiority of women, and the nobility of the female sex, were declared heretical and forbidden publication by the clergy. It was like, no, you can write about this witchy shit. You can teach people how to make pacts with the devil and how to win fortune and shit. But you write motherfucking books about the superiority of women and the nobility of the female sex, banned. That's what it says. Banned. Ban that. Negative. Now, this shit with the pacts with the devil, let's get it cracking. We can send that off to publication for you. That'll keep us in business. That'll keep us in business. But this bullshit here, because you swooning over a chick, you talking about the superiority of women and the nobility of the female sex. Boy, if you don't get the fuck out of here. Magic books nearly always gave formula for negotiating with the devil. Le Dragon Rogue told the aspiring wizard to address Emperor or Lucifer. Emperor Lucifer, master of all rebellious spirits, and his ministers, Lucifuge, Raphael, Prince Beelzebub, and Count Ashtoreth. Magic papyri that had been early models for these books often confused the names and the attributes of Jehovah and Lucifer. Speaking of God, the light bringer, Lucifer, invincible, who knoweth what is in the heart of all life, who of the dust has formed the race of men. End quote. We have seen the same kind of confusion in Christian theology itself. Yet in the 14th century, Toulouse, witches were burned for saying what was actually a tenet of the church's dualism itself, that God and the devil were completely equal, the former reigning over the sky and the latter reigning over the earth. All souls which the devil managed to seduce were lost to the Most High God and lived perpetually on earth or in the air. Even up to the 20th century, churchmen insisted on the devilish pact. Father Thurston wrote, quote, in the face of Holy Scripture and the teaching of the fathers and the theologians, the abstract possibility of a pact with the devil and of a diabolical interference with human affairs can hardly be denied, end quote. But the fathers and the theologians never explained how the devil could profit from the pact, other than to receive a soul, and that was his anyway. As Samuel Butler said, no one heard the devil's side of any story because God wrote all the books. One might think an enlightened modern society would have given up the idea of the devil, but a poll taken in 1978 showed 2 out of every 5 Americans believe in the devil. The strange viability of devils may arise from the usefulness in assuaging the guilt of God and man. Both Judaism and Christianity have maintained that God must be given credit for all the goodness in human history and that men must take the blame for all the evil. Thus, the real purpose of the devil was to take some of this heavy responsibility off the frail human shoulders. In short, the devil, not Christ, was the true scapegoat who assumed the burden of the men of all men's sins. That's the end of that reading for today. And we have a few minutes. We have 8 minutes. So look, y'all are going to keep me disciplined today. So for those of you who may have tuned in late, my name is Cassandra Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates, founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. I am reading today from the wonderful works of Barbara Walker called the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. For those joining me on IG, the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. And so I am going to open the floor for discussion. Any feedback, any questions, any observations, any contributions? Go ahead, let me have them. We got 8 minutes. And I'm going to throw some more herbs on the fire. Now I'm going to tell you, I did this once before, and we had been doing the temple services through Zoom, and then I would just post them on like YouTube. But I'll be honest, I'm a little camera shy. The last Zoom service that we did as the temple, we had, I don't know if it was one or more than one, but we had like, what do you call them? Trolls that kept disrupting the service. And that had never happened to me on Zoom before. And it was really distracting, even though I was trying to keep it from being distracting. But yeah, so I just downloaded StreamYard and I decided we were just going to do it straight like this. I am going to, as always, I am going to call on, just like the preacher, just like the Sun Service Child, I am going to call on donations, contributions, offerings, if you will, for the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, which we have to build. We need to create product. I need to get this freaking website off the ground. I just paid $850 to have this logo painting petitioned by one of my clients, and she did a beautiful job. It was worth every penny. She charged me $850 for that, and it took her about a month, but it was just a exceptional articulation of what I gave to her for the logo. So the actual logo of the temple is the Ouroboros with the sigil of the cosmic egg inside. That's the logo. This is like a beautiful artistic adaptation. So I still need someone who is prolific in graphic design to design our sigil, our logo with the sigil as digital art, so that we can have it on our website. And then in the long view, what I would like to have happen is, you know how no matter where you go on the whole of the entirety of the planet Earth, whenever you see this symbol on top of a building, you know that building is a church, right? Whenever you see that symbol on the top of a building, you know that symbol is a church. I would like for our logo to be the same thing. I would love to get a metal cast of this symbol, even if it's just the sigil. Like the sigil itself may be an easy thing to cast in metal, but the entire logo, the sigil with the Ouroboros around it, that's what I would like to eventually have cast in metal. And then as the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence expands, as it will, everywhere we get a building, that metals, just like all these damn churches all over the place, that symbol will be erected in metal on top of every building that we own. That's my dream. That's my ambition. That's my ambition for what we are building. So let's see. I'm getting some comments in here. Monami says it sounds to me to be affirming of the possibility that what are named devils or demons, Debbie demons, are powerful, knowledgeable women. Letitia says, I watched. Oh shit, that was quick. So Letitia says, I watched Dangerous Beauty, and the court scene was the epitome of the Holy Inquisition, charging people for having supernatural power. Monami says the word charging, like electricity or lightning, press charges. Interesting. Letitia says it was up to the males in power to determine if they were God's work or the devil's work. Let's see what y'all talking about over here on IG. Alafia, African, Ifalade, I am doing well. Let's see. Liminal RR says 52 Shakti, Pithas, Adi Shakti or Cosmic Mother is the only creatrix, hence proved. Very recently, a recent talk with a friend, he mentioned the Krishna cult created the false story of the Shiva. Shiva actually didn't exist. Vaishnav cult killed Shakta Yogini women in India. Fascinating. Telling you this happened all over the planet. Wherever the solar deity rose, women had to be destroyed. Is it correct that devils originate through the denigration of the feminine, but became male as theology evolved? I'm not really sure. I want to say that was unfolding simultaneously. That's what I was sensing both from our read yesterday on prostitutes and this reading today on the devil. I want to say that this was something that was unfolding simultaneously. Letitia. Okay. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So I was just talking about the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, my dream, my ambition. So just so you guys know, I have been invited. So I got to work on that proposal today, but I've been invited to speak at the make a presentation at the Afro Comic Con in San Diego in September. Actually, my birthday week. So I'm going to be submitting a proposal for the topic, but the topic is going to be the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. I just talked to y'all yesterday about how we have to be actively creating the future. Like all we have to do, like what I said yesterday. I said, okay, as artists, when we're talking about the whole thing about Black art, mute matter given force and function, right? Remember that? And I was like, what is the role of the evolutionary artist, right? If they're not in the grips or in the midst of a quote revolutionary culture, we as the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence saying that bloody warfare is not the way forward for us, right? That it is going to be an evolutionary leap forward that radically transforms the global consciousness in the face of the material world. That evolutionary consciousness only coming through the will of the mother, fulfilled, complied with, right? Then what is the role of the evolutionary artist? What is the responsibility of the evolutionary artist? Even today, when we were just reading about like end times and the revelation and all of that shit, and yesterday when we were talking about prostitutes and the role that the devil played in this shit, right? And then I was talking to you guys yesterday about how like we've been primed, we've been conditioned, we've been primed for the last 120 years. Longer than that, but most effectively in the advent of radio and television, we have been primed to accept that the only future that we have is a dystopian one, is a fearful one, is a one that we should not look forward to, is a one that is not evidentiary of evolution, right? This is what we've been primed to accept. through every end of the world scenario movie that we have ever seen, through every dystopian movie we have ever seen. Woo, listen, listen. No matter if it's an asteroid that comes and wipes out the planet, whether it's a plague that infects the planet, right? So if this has been the role of art, this has been the role of artists, is to create, quote, science fiction that is dismal, that's terrifying, that's not uplifting, that is counter-evolutionary, then what is the role of the artist today? What is the role and responsibility of the evolutionary artist? Can Afrofuturistic sci-fi be the counter to that which we have been conditioned to accept? Can it be? Not just Afrofuturism. I'm saying Afrofuturism, but I'm talking about any art that is produced by the former victims of this very madness that we've been talking about today. Because even here, when they talk about how they used as their example, like ancient papyrus, to develop and draft these terror stories, these horror stories about people selling their souls to the devil and all this kind of bullshit to incite this aggression against women. That was its primary purpose, was to incite this extraordinarily lengthy 600-year to 900-year aggression. Because truth be told, the Inquisition didn't end until the late 1800s. The official Inquisition in Europe did not end officially until the 1800s. And it wasn't just in Europe. It branched out as the age of exploration expanded. So there was a holy inquisitor in South America. All over South America, there were holy inquisitors. In Mexico, there were holy inquisitors. In the United States, there were holy inquisitors. So if the Inquisition lasted 900 years and its primary method of expansion was word, was literature, was books, was writing, and then we move into the industrial age and the technological age, the age of cinema, the age of music, the age of radio. And its primary purpose is to, we talked about the state this week, the role of the state. What do we say? The nonviolent apparatus of the state is all forms of media. It is to win the ideas of human beings that their suffering is just, that the state is ordained by God, and that the state is just and permanent because it is ordained by God. This is the political weapon that we're reading about, right? And so what is the role of the evolutionary artist, you guys? That's what I'm going to be doing my presentation on at Afro-Comic-Con in September. What is the role of the evolutionary artist? What is the role of envisioning the future in a way that galvanizes the imaginations of infants and toddlers and young people and teenagers to create a world that they can see made real in their consciousness? Because you cannot create what you cannot imagine. You cannot create what you cannot imagine. And so the images imposed on our consciousness for forever, for the last 120 years, have been images of despair and a future barren and desert-like. And we're at war for all things and in this gruesome competition for the bare minimum. There is no utopian future movies, sci-fi movies of a utopian future where the collective of humanity have leaped forward in a way where work does not define our right to exist and the quality of that existence. Labor is not something that determines your right to live or to not live. Where our daily existence is more defined by beauty than it is adversity and the need to persevere in shit. right? And so I woke up this morning at about 5 o'clock this morning, thinking about this subject, thinking about what I was going to say to you guys today, thinking about what we were going to read today. And I've talked to you guys many times about I see in color, baby. I dream in full movies. I'm not lying. I have to just sit down and tell you about some of the dreams I have, some of the recurring dreams that I have. I dream in full on fucking movies, right? And I remember, this is the last thing I'm saying. I remember this movie that if you haven't seen it, you should see it. Disclaimer, to me, it's still triggering. I'm 48 years old, and I saw the movie when I was a little kid, Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments. Without any context, you believe that shit is real, that it happened exactly the way the movie said it, that it happened exactly the way the Bible said it, that there were no metaphors, that there was no analogy, that it was just literal. That's how it happened, right? And so that shit terrified the fuck out of me when I was a kid. The movie, The Ten Commandments. And that's what it's intended to do, is to terrorize you into this complicitous relationship with Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, who ain't saved you from shit, who ain't did shit for you, will never do anything for you but guilt you into this fucked up relationship through the apparatus of fear, right? So I believe the shit. And there's a scene in the movie where, because the big bad Egyptians was just terrorizing the polar Hebrews, you feel me? Diabolical. No wonder we out here hating ourselves so much, right? Diabolical. So the poor, terrible, the poor, afflicted, downtrodden, enslaved Hebrews, enslaved through the tyranny and aggression of the diabolical bastard Egyptians, right? And the Egyptians were so haughty and so arrogant. It was like, look, any little miracle you can perform, we can perform too. So what you gonna do? And so Moses, who never existed, by the way, tells Pharaoh, look, man, this shit about to get real ugly if you don't comply to the will of our God. Like, you don't have to know him, you just have to do what he say. Imagine. Anyway. So, there's a scene, though, and I'm getting to a point. There is this scene that is extremely traumatizing as a child, okay? But I've been thinking about this scene a lot as an adult. The scene is when, the Spirit of God tells Moses to sacrifice a ram. Is it a ram? Yeah, sacrifice a ram. And take the blood of that ram and put it over the doors of all the Hebrews, of all of God's chosen folk. You feel me? Put it over the door. That way, when I send this last plague to Egypt, you feel me? All of those whose doors are protected by the blood. Oh my God. Oh. All those whose doors are protected by the blood. You feel me? I gotta take a note. All those whose doors are protected by the blood, the angel of death will pass them over. Okay? Hence where you get the Passover from. Now that was some horrifying shit, because in the movie, special effects weren't really that great, but it was still scary as shit, because it looks like a hole opens up in the sky, and then this mist, if you will, or smoke, pours down rapidly out of the sky, and when it gets to the ground, it swooshes out fast in every direction and scatters through all the nooks and crannies of all of Egypt. And all you hear are the screams of women as their firstborn sons are taken by the angel of death, sent on them by Moses. Right? Now I'm going to tell you, I am 48 years old. I have not seen that movie since I was probably 9-10 years old. That is the power of imagery etched in the minds of humans, shaping their goddamn imagination, their energy contributing to the shaping of that imagination to create the world that exists. So if that movie had that kind of impact on me, that I can clearly see it in my mind's eye as if I'd seen it yesterday, and that was 30 plus years ago. This is the role of the evolutionary artist, is to create that kind of prolific imagery in the consciousness of humans, that we can take this shit, that the world can be made well, that the world can once again be ours under the leadership and direction, love, and care of the mother. This is it. And so when I talked to you guys yesterday about, was it yesterday? No, it was a while ago. Oh, when I did that presentation on no more motherfucking gurus, preachers, leaders, priests, and all that bullshit, right? What did I say at the end? When I said that we need to be singing songs of joy to the mother, creating songs of ecstasy to the mother, the same way that we sing to a motherfucker we trying to court, we trying to get next to, we need to be singing that way to the mother. The same way these whole gospel choirs be crying and shouting and praising, really embodied in the worship of a fictitious Jesus, we need to be singing the same way to the mother. We need to be writing songs that wake the dead. We need to be writing movie scripts. So you got the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith. You feel me? He in the world by his motherfucking self. You feel me? After what? After a great plague has decimated the planet, right? And turned human beings into the walking dead. Can we create a sci-fi Afrofuturistic movie where there is a miasm that sweeps through just as rapidly through the human consciousness, that takes those walking dead zombies of humanity and breathes new life into them? And when they awake, they are more than they were. They are better than they were. They are arisen and awakened anew. Something better, something more. Can we make a readaptation of the 10 Commandments, where a motherfucker, instead of an angel of death pouring out of a hole in the goddamn sky to decimate, to murder the babies, the firstborn babies of the most ancient people? And we send out, instead of an angel of death, this new entity that breathes life in the twinkling of an eye into the consciousness of all the walking dead inhabiting the earth right motherfucking now. Where in an instant, all disease afflicting humans that come as a consequence of their broken fucking spirits impacting their flesh, all disease is healed in an instant. Woo! Child. Where all cancer is eradicated because joy reigns supreme on the planet, and it cannot coexist with illness, with sadness, with madness, with rage, with despair. Woo. This is the work of the evolutionary artist. This is the work. This is the work of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. This is the work, is to destroy the cancer of patriarchy on the face of the fucking planet once and for goddamn all. To restore and awaken our encaged and sleeping mother. This is it. This is it. Art is going to play the foundational, monumental role in the reawakening of the imagination of the broken, of the beaten, of the battered. Just as the mother was subdued by reactionary art. That's what the church did. It used art. It used words. It used music. It used the goddamn printing. The first book it ever printed was a book on how to destroy women, how to murder women, how to interrogate women. This is the work. This is the work. This is the work. It is the dance. It is the song. It is the visuals. It is the painting. It is the graffiti. It all has to awaken something in the spirit of humans so they have the confidence to set this shit off once and for all. That's the role. That's the role. We are not going to do this by ourselves. It's not going to be some one great great Messiah, one great hero Negro. None of that bullshit. We all have to be invested in the future, baby. Because we're all stepping into the future. We all have a role to play in the execution and the unfolding of the future. We all have a role to play in telling the mother out loud, we accept the call. We comply to your will. We accept the mission. We do it joyfully. We do it with our heads raised, our fucking chest poked out. We do it with all the audacity and courage that we have when we are infants and toddlers at 3 and we think we can jump the fuck off anything because mama is right there and ain't nothing bad gonna happen because she's right there. She gonna get me. Even if I hurt myself, she got me. Even if I fall, she got me. That's how we stepping out the fuck in the world. With that kind of confidence, with that kind of courage, without any fear whatsoever, because we know she got us. That's how we have to move. Nothing less will do. Nothing less will do. So that's all I have for you today. I appreciate you guys rocking with me for 2 hours and 19 minutes. I'm probably about to go lay my ass on somebody's beach somewhere, soak up some of this sun. You feel me? Get a couple of shades darker and shit. You feel me? But thank you again for rocking with me the whole time, for hearing the reading from the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. I'm going to be up in here studying much more. I've been on lives with y'all for 4 fucking days in a row. That's a rarity for me, y'all know. But I'm going to try to get back on a steeper discipline about keeping the content up. And because, baby, the clock is ticking. My clock is ticking. I'm aware of it every day. I'm like, okay, girl, what you gonna do? Because we still in the midst of this Pluto's return. We got a little more than a year, maybe a year and 2 months before this shit is permanently set the fuck off. This is just the growing pains. And our opposition is working daily. This bullshit about the rescinding of abortion rights and the rescinding of affirmative rights and affirmative action right, all this shit, honey, they are clamping down. They know what time it is. They know that this is Pluto's return, and that they can galvanize that energy to their benefit at the expense of ours if we do not know how to move accordingly. I am so painfully aware of this every second of the day. Sometimes that shit can subdue a bitch, because we got to set the shit off. And whatever we do in this next 12, 14 months can have a monumental impact. But we have to do something that is so outside of our comfort zone, outside of our norm, so radical, so unlike what is. We have to. We have to. So I don't know. Like I'm plotting and I'm scheming but yeah, I need money. I need resources. I need access. I need information. If you got it, email it to me. You understand? If you know someone, I need to know. If you know people that I need to know, if you know people I need to collaborate with, I need contact information. I need resources. I need people to help with my website. I need people who have digital graphic skills, people who can maintain these motherfucking social media accounts. That shit takes so much time. You understand? So I'm not only asking for your coins, I'm asking for your volunteer hours, your man hours. I'm asking for your ideas. So I have to sit up here and write a proposal today about this presentation that I've been asked to make at Afro Comic Con. So that's going to be the thing that is kind of like brain consuming. I really wanted to organize an event, but the time just got away from me. So it's going to have to be later. But we should do an event as the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. That's what I would really like to do before the year's end, is to do one big event as a way to kind of announce the temple. But what I would like to see happen before that happens is our website up and running, right? We already have the 501c3 and the bank account and all of that stuff. But like t-shirts with this dope ass fucking logo on it, right? Bumper stickers with the logo on it and something about the goddess, like, or even I got ideas. So maybe we should just have another committee meeting sometime soon. And those that are interested that are not officially on the committee can be a part of that committee. Maybe we can do that as a private Zoom conference where it's just a committee meeting and we can brainstorm about how to set the shit the fuck up. Because we got 14 months. We got 14 months to make an impact. It's not an end date. It is like, on your march, get set, go. That's what the 14 months is. In 14 months, the gunfire goes off and we take it off. That's what it is. So what is the momentum? What's the training? What's the momentum that we're going to build up until that point? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So if you are interested in participating in the committee to build the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, email me at releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. Send me your contact information, your full name, your phone number, your email address. If you are interested in any aspect of building the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, but don't want to make the commitment to be necessarily on the committee, say you just want to monitor my Facebook page or my TikTok page is the thing that I need the most help with, right? And say, look, I got some time, I can contribute to the TikTok shit. Cool, I can do that, but I can't sit in no committee meetings. Email me at releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. I accept that. You feel me? I'm going to tell you if you want to make a contribution, because apparently you can't see the little donation thing across the bottom. I guess it's too small. I got to figure out how to make that bigger. But if you want to cash at me, it is Iyapo Ngina with a capital I and a capital N. IYAPO NGINA. Venmo is Cassandra with 2 S's _Floyd. My PayPal is Iyapo, IYAPO, the number 4, Uhuru, UHURU @yahoo.com. That's Iyapo for Uhuru @yahoo.com. And my Zelle is my email, releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. Releaseheartcenter@gmail.com to send a Zelle. Any amount will do. Any amount will be accepted and appreciated and prayed over for your bounty and prosperity. I pray that everybody's money comes back to them times 10. So all is appreciated. All is prayed over. Keep your vibration high. Get yourself whatever makes you happy. Like yesterday, I told y'all, baby, I sat right up on this couch and ate myself some waffle cone ice cream and drank wine because that's what gave me peace yesterday. Do what you need to do to be the embodiment of happiness, to be the embodiment of joy, to be the embodiment of bliss. I had a rough week. Y'all know I started off this week with a whole ass attitude, but I had to pull myself back into myself. Spirit was like, you can be mad for a hot second, but you can't carry that shit. Now go on out there and get yourself a bottle of wine and a glass of ice, a bottle of wine and some ice cream, and pull your shit together. So I am my happy self today. Okay, there is a lot of noise out there in the world that is going to attempt to get you off your square. There is a lot of noise in the world today that is going to attempt to get you off your square, especially as these next few weeks get hotter. It's that time of the year. People get a little more frustrated. The death toll goes up. All that bullshit. You better keep that bullshit out your life. Be mindful of cooling your head. Wear more white or more blue on your head. Do not wear red for the next few weeks. You understand? Take cold showers. Keep your head cool. You understand? For those of you in nutrition, do a head clearing. Do a head feeding. You're gonna get yourself a coconut. Douse your head. You understand? Do what you got to do to keep these megalomaniacal lunatics out your headspace. That's what I'm saying. Do whatever you got to do to keep this noise out your headspace. You understand what I'm saying? Because it is we evolutionary artists that are going to change this shit. But we have to give people the images that ignite their imagination. They cannot create what they cannot imagine. And unfortunately, we haven't had enough information for a long time to imagine a world made well and free in an instant. Okay? So, yeah. All right. So, thank you, Yellow Rose. I'm gonna accept that as a compliment. So I'm just so grateful for you all. I'm so grateful for the time. I'm so grateful for the day. I'm so grateful for the mother. So grateful for the mother. So grateful every day for the mother. You understand? Go out here and enjoy the world today. All right. So thank you again. I will see you. I'll probably do another live on Monday. I'm going to take tomorrow off. Got some pretty mentally taxing work to do tomorrow. So Monday, I'm going to try to start doing, even if I'm only doing short lives, I'm going to try to start doing lives every day and then doing one big live as the temple service on Saturdays. So I'll keep y'all posted on that. In the meantime, go enjoy the world today. Go enjoy the world of bounty that we are blessed with on this day. Go enjoy the world today. Go hike somewhere. Go wrap your arms around a tree somewhere. Go kiss a baby. But go out here and enjoy the world today and keep that noise out your headspace. All right, peace.